What's it like growing up when your father is an artist? Did he encourage art?
As long as you're doing something legal and something you love.
They started with legal because they knew who their daughter was.
It was,
How far did your career, how far did your pop star career go?
it was a China's Got Talent. Being in the spotlight was cool, but editing is just so fun. It's like playing video game. Yeah.
But you wanted to take it to the next level. Like going to grad school was editing. Are there not a lot of options as far as like an editing grad school, or was it just AFI?
Teacher at the Chapman, they said, I think the best school you should go to, which you definitely will not be able to get into, is AFI. And I was like, okay, thank you.
The second day of school, we used to do a thing called Real Day, where all the fellows would get together in our theater and they would show something they did before they came to AFI, their personal work. It's their first time, seeing it with an audience, and they're sharing with their colleagues that they're going to spend 2 years with. It's very vulnerable. It's scary. What was going through your mind on Real Day?
Oh, like maybe I should just run. Like that was one of my most terrified day in my life.
Hello, turn your camera on.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi.
what's going on?
Yeah. Oh my God. I love your background. You look legit.
It's Pagana and Peter
I know.
O'Toole and
I
Schwartzy's over there somewhere.
I see you. I see you on the left.
Oh, there I am. Uh, yeah, I hook up my real camera to the computer, and then I have the microphone.
Oh wow.
Uh,
Got a
I'm not
real gig.
I'm not messing around here, okay? Wait, so is that your dad's studio?
Well, yes, I'm at his house now. Yes, this is the second story. We just finished the Beverly Hills Art Show, so it's like unpacked yet,
Oh,
trying to cover some of the clutter in the background.
so what's it like growing up when your father is an artist? Did he encourage art?
Yes, very much. I think, as you know, in my 20s, I was very lost. I was trying to become a singer. And, I never heard like my parents were saying no. They always be like, as long as you're doing something legal,
They started with legal because they knew who their daughter was.
do something legal and you truly love and you are not doing it because of money.
So wait, you kind of skipped over the part where you were working on being a singer. I've heard that you're pretty famous in China.
Oh no, no. It
How far did your career? How far did your pop star career go?
Long story short, it was a China's Got Talent and I got into weekly, monthly competition, and eventually the final round. And yeah, that was what happened.
Well, wait, final round, and then what? Did you
And then,
win?
well, I got into top 12 and you're a finalist. And then that got me to think, should I keep pursuing it? Should I stay in China to pursuing singing career, or should I do something legit, right? Um, I'm kidding. I do love
That's
singing.
legit.
It was just like, like I think being in the spotlight was cool, but it was very, a lot of rehearsals and traveling, and China's Got Talent was a big show at that time, and it requires a lot. And I kind of felt like it's too much for me. And the director from China's Got Talent, she was so nice. She brought me to the editing bay, and she was witnessing how she collaborated with her editor. And that was fascinating. And I
Mm.
think she did me a lot of favor. She was fixing my performance by cutting to different camera and fixing my hiccups. And I was like, oh my God, this is where the magic happened. And this is much cooler than under the spotlight. There's no pressure and I can just fix my performance. So I think that's where I was like, I wanna make the true magic. And this is where it is.
Wow, I actually didn't know that you were introduced to editing by looking at your kind of your own performance, but your own show that you were on. That's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah.
Yeah.
But also because my dad, when he was young, he was a director for TV shows. And
Mm.
witnessing how he worked on set, it was like, oh my God, this is so chaotic and can be dramatic. And when he's working with his editor in the editing bay, I'm like, this is much more relaxed, and you can always fix, and you can always create different versions of the show, and that's really cool. And I love that freedom, because for me, if I'm being put on the spot, it's like, oh, I will freeze, and then I cannot have the freedom to create. So I really appreciate that. Editing bay is just, you can just relax and take your time and figure it out. Hopefully you can take your time.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I never thought of it like that. Like the pressure of being on set with the clock and with the sun going down and the crew and everybody's on the, getting paid, and there's like lots of money going out the window. In the editing room, you have everything that well, not everything you need, but everything that you have to work with. It's just there and you can just play. You still have deadlines, right? But that intense pressure of you need to make a decision right now
Oh
is
yeah.
gone. That's not really a part of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's why my undergrads in Canada, Toronto, from York University, it was digital media arts program. It was post-production, but we learned everything. Like we learned how to design a web page, how to use Adobe Flash to create a commercial and animation. And we learned like visual effects through combustion software, which is so advanced. And so it's kind of like all over places. So I was like, what am I doing after school? So that's why I appreciate AFI. We have editing discipline, every single discipline is just where you focus on, rather than like, this is a combo package. There you go. You know,
Right. So when you were at York, you were already in editing. You were already into it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they call it the digital media arts program. So like I said, it's like, gosh, we just do that. We learn everything, every single software from Adobe, even like InDesign. I'm like, who learns InDesign nowadays? But it was a thing. It was like,
Yeah. But
yeah.
you wanted to take it to the next level. Like going to grad school is like that means you definitely want to do that one thing. And it was editing. And are there not a lot of options as far as like an editing grad school, or was it just AFI?
What's funny is when I first came to LA, I was visiting two friends or mentors of mine. They were professors from Chapman University. One is Martha Coolidge. She was the dean from film school at Chapman that time. And Professor Kelly Galindo, she was teaching film acting and voice acting from film department at Chapman. So both of them, they were so helpful. And it's interesting because they teach at Chapman. They said, I think the best school you should go to, which you definitely will not be able to get into, is AFI. And I was like, okay, thank you. All right.
What do you mean? Why didn't they think you could get in?
Because they said AFI is such a prestigious
Oh,
school.
okay.
It is number one across the nation. And people who came into AFI they are like pros. They already made features, they were already made TV shows. I'm like, okay, maybe I should give a shot. And so I visited AFI, and I visited USC. I think I visited CalArts and LMU, all these film schools. Honestly, I just clicked with AFI right away. I swear. I did not know AFI was the number one nation, and I did not trust it. I was like, every film school has their, pros and cons. I'm sure every school is great. But truly, when I went to AFI, what I remember, like, I think the production designers professor came to talk to me, and Stacy was working that time. She was in charge of the campus store. And I was like, oh my God, everyone is just so nice. And it feels like I want to become an editor, and this is where I want to be, because this is editing discipline, writing discipline. So I love that. I don't want to be like a combo again when I was in Canada, because I was
Yeah.
like, what am I doing? Like, what am I? What am I gonna do? I can be a graphic designer, I can be a web designer, I can be an illustrator, and I can be a visual effects. What am I? Like, it's no. I want to focus on editing. This is what my ultimate goal is. So That's why I was like, okay, let me give a shot. And
But part of it was the people that you met when you were here, like the
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes,
Because
yeah.
it was it part of it like because it was so small and like there was a one-on-one approach and like a USC can be massive, thousands of students.
Yeah, USC was like, I'm like, this is too big. Like this campus is so big. I'm very overwhelmed. And I think CalArts was terrific, but it could be a little bit experimental because I want to focus on like drama and storytelling, like, and
Traditional, yeah. Yeah.
traditional, yes. So I was like, and also I love the location of AFI. It's we're in the center of action. This is Hollywood. That's what Martha said as well. And she said it's all about connection. It's all about, and our AFI's alumni center help us so much. Schwartz, you helped me so much. And, constantly sending out information job posts for students. And that's something I feel like what I really appreciate about AFI, because after I graduated, the first couple jobs, I was like, wow, I got an interview from this person, I got an interview from this show. This is crazy. So
Yeah.
that's like I really made the right choice for coming to AFI.
Okay, so let's talk about you first get to AFI, those first days, and actually the second day of school, we used to do a thing called Real Day, where all the fellows would get together in our theater and they would show something they did before they came to AFI, their personal work. And for a lot of them, it's their first time seeing their work on a big screen. It's their first time, seeing it with an audience. And they're sharing with their colleagues that they're going to spend 2 years with, people they're going to team with and make movies with. It's very vulnerable. It's scary. What was going through your mind on Real Day?
Oh my God. I think that was one of my most terrified day in my life. I honestly, Shwazi, I almost ran away. I, because to be honest, like, okay, I was really great that time. So I was like, this is the best work I can do when I submit to AFI. This is the best I can do. And I had no idea, like, I was shooting on a small camera on myself. I direct by myself. I cut by myself on iMovie. And all my transition shots are
Yeah.
with, what do you call it, with the fade in and fade out. That's my transition, right? So it was like, what was I doing? But I was like, tried my best. I didn't know anything. I was so green. And I
Uh-huh.
remember you were showing like other people's work. And then I remember, I'm not gonna name dropping, but someone's like, oh, this movie I shot or short, I don't remember. It was got into Cannes. I'm like, okay. And then some of the other directors like, oh, this is real where I directed for HBO. And I was like, oh my God, okay. And then I was like, Swazi, don't show I better run. I remember two people next to me, they were like, whoa, this is really, really intense. I was like, maybe I should just run. Like, but I remember Matt Jesse, he was sitting next to me and he saw me and he was like, you're not leaving, are you?
Wait, he was there during Real Day?
He was there on the real day. Yes.
Wow.
We had a conversation later on, actually. It was
Yeah.
fun. And I was like, okay, shoot, he's my department head. He was my department head that time. Like, okay, I better stay here. And remember, you were so kind because when you were showing my reel, I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst. I literally heard other people were like, who's this? Who's this? And they were taking my name down because it's like, don't work with this person because she doesn't know how to cut. I think that's in my mind,
That's in your mind. Come on.
but it was bad. And then you were so nice. You were like, wow, what a great storytelling. That's a unique story. I remember you said that. And then I was so nervous. I think I was literally going to have a panic attack. And Matt Hesse was so kind. And he was looking at me. He's like, that's a great story. You did a great job. I know he was comforting me because it was really, really bad because who cut like that?
I don't
But
remember what you showed, but I do remember because the other part of it is you get up and you introduce yourself, right? And I
yeah,
remember you introduced yourself and you said something about your father, I believe.
yeah, it was a story about him. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was two shorts. One is about him, one is about, you
Yeah.
know,
And I think everyone in that room was like blown away by like just like
Really?
who your dad was. It's and the way you presented it, because you're very, as we can tell, you're very charming and personable and a
Yeah.
good storyteller. You have that stage experience
Oh my
from
God.
being a pop star. Uh,
Oh, thank you.
so I think like what you were feeling inside did not express itself on the outside. So, but like
Well,
that's life, right? That's how we all go through life.
yeah, I was definitely faking it for sure. Like, I was like, okay, it is what it is. And I
Yeah.
remember, Rosie, just after that, I wanted to work with one of the director. And I said, can we work together? And this director said, well, I need someone more experienced. And that really hurts me.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, I know the reel was a failure. Oh God. But you know what? Like that lights a fire inside me. I'm like, I'm just gonna team up with people who appreciates my passion. That's the only thing I can give because I had no zero talent, but I had passion.
Yeah.
So I was very lucky and I did team up with very, very talented director and Chen Wan. I don't know if you remember her.
Yep.
Um, I collaborate with her and she really, really values me. And she was very encouraging when we were collaborating together. So she said,
Hmm.
I think you come from a music background, your sense of pacing and the way you use music and you have a strong sensibility of sound effects and sound design. I really like that. And she said, you work so hard. That's what I value. So that really, I felt like I'm going to, from now on, I'm going to work with like-minded people. And,
Yeah.
that's what I appreciate about my fellows from AFI, truly.
Yeah. You have to find the people that are right for you, even though you approached someone that you thought you liked their work that you saw and they, shut you down. Like just because you like their work doesn't mean like it's a good match. Right.
Yeah.
So, but you found someone that you match with. But you brought up an interesting point because you do have a musical background, as we've said, and talk about how that applies to what you do as an editor.
Oh, that's a great question. I think, growing up, I watch a lot of music videos, probably way more than movies, just be honest. I love watching music videos and commercials. Sometimes I help cutting the trailer if I work on a short film and the director said, can you help me cut the trailer for the short as well? And I would always be so excited to jump onto it because I felt like I would play like maybe like a very hardcore rock and then to fit into the trailer, or I can play a very jazz and soul, blue jazz and kind of like music underneath it. And it would deliver different mood and different trailers, different versions. And a lot of time it was, oh my God, this is so interesting because it helps the creative teams to jump outside the box. The trailer can be originally, because one short film I cut during the pandemic it was comedy and drama. It can be very touching, but it also can be very funny at the same time. But then eventually I created different versions, and then the director said, forget the comedy version. Let's go with the more moving, touching part of the version of the trailer because the music I selected. So I think with the background of having the music background, that really helps me to jump outside the box and helps to deliver the cut. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, trailers are very much music driven, um, and it's usually like it's a different kind of editing in a way. But so that shows how versatile you are. That you're really good at both. Like more traditional storytelling, cutting, and then trailer cutting, which is it's a whole different style, different skill set. So you're
Yeah.
good if you can do both. But there's also the that so you're talking about like literally music in film. But there's also the musicality of like people talk about the rhythm of editing, like how you're telling the story and the rhythms within a story and the dynamics. These are words that are used in music and they work in film too. What's your theory in that, or like how does music help you? Not literally music, but like that musical background help you find rhythm in scenes?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think I learned this a lot from two editors I really respect. One is Kayla Amter, and the other one is Mako Kamisuna. They both are, before the movie starts, they would always, because I was their assistant editor, they would ask me to like, okay, let's pile a list or like different soundtracks that you feel like the rhythm would fit into, like, say, when I was working with Kayla, when we work on Lamborghini, and then she would say, find some of the music album that fits into the, the car chasing scene in between Lamborghini and Ferrari, that rhythm, that kind of intensity, right?
Mm.
So car racing, because we have different car racing scenes. Like one car racing scene is very emotional. It was purely in between Lamborghini and Ferrari, right? Those two characters. Then they have a lot of internal struggles and their jealousy, their competition, there's emotions in it, right? So that has to be not just like car racing, da 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 da, not just that. You need to have like probably. I remember Kayla would give me some, big outline. She would say, "Oh, I don't want to have piano underneath it, right? Maybe put
Yeah.
some strings on it underneath." And then I would look for some kind of the music with string underneath it, so the string can deliver that sourness, that kind of sour, like that kind of fire inside their emotions, right? So the thing, yes, is about car racing, but actually the storytelling, it is about two characters' internal competition and struggle. So I thought that was very interesting because at the beginning, I just created a bunch of like albums. These are all car racings. These are like Top Guns. These are like,
Yeah.
like Fast and Furious.
It's
And then,
like exciting. It's all blah, 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 moves. Yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, you're actually storytelling is not,
yes.
whether it's a car racing movie or whatever it is, there's different dynamics within a story, right? Yeah.
Yes, the dynamics. And I remember then we have another scene of young Lamborghini and competing with other, cars like Maserati and, other car brands at a car racing show. That is like at the beginning, he's like so arrogant. He's like, I'm the best. And then, the music started with the rhythm and the dynamic of like very like innocent heartbeat, right? Lighthearted, upbeat kind of the rhythm. And then throughout when they were chasing, and then with other cars, he was the number one at the beginning. So it's very intense, it's exciting. And then as a scene driven, it's like, whoa, the car slows down, and then Ferrari went into the front, and then that kind of intensity. So it's like a good piece of music is not just like the same rhythm, same dynamic, same like intensity of just car racing. It's like telling the maybe like the POV or like characters in the movie what they are trying to do, what their feelings, because we want the
Yeah.
audience to feel what a character feels like, not just the like, oh, they're the winner, how cool that car is. I guess that's a different kind of film we're making. So
It's just like making love.
oh, that's a
Yeah.
whole
I
different.
don't sorry, that's for a different podcast. Okay, wait, let's get back to AFI. So you make it through real day, but let's talk about like in that first year when you're learning how to collaborate and you're working with different people. And back then you would do 2 films every cycle. So you did like 6 films. So you got to work with a bunch of different people. What was like what was a big learning curve? Either a big mistake you made that you learned from, or just something that you learned maybe in a class.
The lesson I learned is because I was green and I was insecure, and I was like, oh my God, like what am I doing here? And I was shy to ask, like, but I was so green and I couldn't deliver on time. I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I had a conversation with Matt Chasey, and he's just absolutely lovely and he's the best. And I said, I told him, I said, I want to quit AFI because I'm so green. I can't survive. I just can't do this. I was acting like a baby. And
Hmm.
then he said, okay, I'm going to write down. He started writing down all my concerns and how can the program can be improved and what do I need. Oh my God, he wrote 2 full pages. I swear, like, and then eventually he cried. I'm like, oh my God, why are you crying? And he said, I'm very touched by how how much struggle you have and how vulnerable and how open you are sharing with me. This is what I need. He said, I feel like I'm trying to get to know a lot of students, but I feel like a lot of time no one can open up for me. And you are brave. And I appreciate that. Oh my God, Matt Chesson made a magic right away. He said, okay, I'm gonna create more classes because that's what I need. Because I was like, I'm so great. I need teacher to teach me.
Yeah.
Tell me what's a bad cut, what's a good cut. Because just by practicing editing back, I wouldn't be able to know. Because I would still be like, is this a good cut or bad cut? And since then, I remember my translator would knock on my door, be like, I'm here. I'm like, oh my God, I'm still working. And he said, let's make the magic. And he would go through my cut, literally scene by scene, very detailed. He would spend in my editing room for like 2, 3, 4, sometimes 4 hours. And he would help me. He's like, what about this? What do you think of this? Let's switch this scene to here. Let's switch this scene to there. Like he would start to be the director for the, orchestra. He started
Yeah.
doing everything. And I was like, oh my God, I am so thankful for Matt. And then he's like, trust me, just keep working on. He will give me the general outline. I would address his notes. And then next day he'll come into the editing bay. He's like, let's see what's the improvement or not. I remember we were watching that movie together and it was a horror movie and he would kick my seat every time he think I did a great job. And eventually my seat was from this room to all the way to there. And he's like, this is it. He's so happy for me. He's like, we made it. So I felt like that connection, that how much he cares for me. I was like, oh my God, Matt, you're the best. And I remember it was funny because he's like, watch out, people are gonna jump out of the seat for this horror show. So we screened at AFI. I remember the HMLS class. I remember some of the classmates, they have different feedbacks. I think was it Bowie from editing class, which I adore Bowie so much. And he's like, oh my God, I literally fell off the seat because it was so scary, that part, and he was like, wow. And I remember Ben and Alex from my class, they said, I feel like you got so much improvement. Selinda, what happened to you? And Hamad is like, man, you gotta watch my movie. You gotta give me some feedback, And I was so happy. And Manchester was like, we made it. That was the part, like I felt like I built confidence. And the lesson I learned that I need to speak up for myself. Like a lot of time we complain like, oh my God, like the teacher is so busy. Because we have so many great professors from AFI faculties. Of course they're busy. So I think as a student and a fellow, we should reach out to them more, be more proactive. And I think that's a lesson I learned. I got to be more open-minded, be honest, like I'm great. I'm here to learn. I'm not here to show off to anyone. I'm here to make make the best out of it. So that
Yeah.
was attitude. And I think that was really because Matt Chesney was just so wonderful. He was so proactive and he was so protective as well. He was very protective. He's like, don't listen to that person. Because I remember someone said, oh, I don't know about the editing. He said, don't listen to that person. He literally yelled from the back of the seat in HMR.
Wait, really?
Yeah. He said, don't listen to them. I'm like, oh my God.
That is so Matt. That is so Matt. And only Matt can get away with that, right?
I
Because
know,
you're not
right?
supposed to, the teachers aren't supposed to talk in that class. But it also shows like how much Matt like loves you and cares for you because he was defending you.
Oh yeah, he's wonderful. He's just means so much to me. Yes. Without Matt, I'd probably drop off AFI already. So
Yeah. I mean, it's, it's that all that story is so great. And it just says a lot about a lot of things. But one of them is like you said, well, it gave you the confidence to speak up, when you were concerned. And I think a lot of people go into organizations or institutions like a school and they just go, well, this is the system and they know better. And I'm just going to survive it or, or fail, or I'll just drop out because it doesn't work for me, rather than actually, bringing up their concerns, and I will say though, you got very lucky that you had Matt that was listening to you, because Matt is somebody who, I don't know anybody else who cares more than Matt. Right. and he's so full of like empathy, and he wanted to help, and he's a big time editor.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Like,
God.
we should say that. Like, he edits all of Mark Forrester's movies. He's edited World War Z. He edited a James Bond movie. Like, he was taking 1 year off to run the AFI editing program. Happened to be the year that you were there, and it's like you two collided at just the right time, because he inspired you to stay and fight it out. But I think, like, with your story, you inspired him to stay as the teacher, because he, like you said, he cried because he wasn't connecting with the students.
Yeah, I mean, when he left AFI and I was crying, he was crying more, and we were crying like crying babies. And Matt is like, "How come I cry so much?" And I was like, because he's like, "I gotta cut this. What is that? The Winnie the Pooh. The
Oh yeah, the Winnie the Pooh movie. Yeah.
Yeah." So I'm like, I get it. Of course. But what about us? You abandoned us. No.
What about us?
We had another new head, Michael Jablo, who is terrific as well.
Yeah.
He's so caring. Oh my God, every single faculty. He brought me the two very impressive job interviews right after AFI.
Oh yeah.
Not just me. I mean, he got everyone, but he worked hard. He reached out his connections. It's like, okay, we have new fellows and new grads, and if you ever need jobs, and he always there for us.
Yeah.
And Lindsay Clayman, she was mentor for me, and she was like, I remember during a pandemic, every other week she would check in with me, because she said, I just want to make sure you're healthy, because that time we didn't have vaccine and we're all at home.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm here 24/7 for you. If you ever need a place to crash, please come to my house. That's what she said. And Brian Schofield. Oh my God, I love Brian, because during the pandemic I didn't have job for a year and a half, and Brian was like, I just reached out to my faculties, and he literally had a lunch with me for like almost 2 hours, and he said, "Here's what we're gonna do. This is a game plan," and I'm so grateful for all these faculties. So to me, AFI and Schwartz, you of course. You link me up so many great people. I'm not going to talk about here, but right.
We'll talk to it. We'll talk about one though. But you're mentioning these people, but like, I was talking about how impressive Matt is,
Yeah.
but Lindsay Klingman is like legendary with her credits, right?
Yes.
Um, I'm pulling them up right now just so I can remind myself. But let's just start with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. She
God.
edited that. War of the Roses, A River Runs Through It, Hoffa. I mean, like, this is crazy. Like, Ali, she worked with Michael Mann. But yeah, like, to have someone like that as a mentor and telling you like it's all gonna be fine, like, that's just gotta, it's not just somebody, being there and saying it, it's also like who they are, and you go, oh wait, just the fact that they know who you are
Yeah.
is crazy.
I mean, they're just terrific. Oh God. Yeah. I mean, from Green, and eventually my thesis film turned out so well. I mean, I have to thank
Yeah.
every single of them. I mean, just I, to me, the AFI journey I was like, I should make a movie out of it if in the future, I have time and money.
Well, you're a great example of like actually like what school can do, because you came in, you said you didn't feel like you fit in because you didn't feel like you were as experienced, and people were turning you down, and you showed that reel, and then cut to you progressed through that first year, and in your second year you one of your thesis films is called Miller and Son,
Yes.
right? And it goes on to win the Student Academy Award, the Gold, the top award any student film could ever win. So, and you have to take a lot of that credit. You are the editor of the film. You're part of that team. So, like, talk about that progression, and like, do you ever like step back and go, wow, I came a long way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. My expectation from the AFI originally was like, as long as I graduate, as long as I graduate, you have no idea.
That's the minimum. That's the very minimum.
Minimum. And I remember like they have an evaluation from after the first year. I remember the faculties they would evaluate each students if they're gonna be eliminated. I I was like praying every day. I'm like, okay, please don't eliminate me. Please don't eliminate me. And I remember in the end, Matt was like, why are you so worried about being eliminated? I don't understand. I said, because I'm so great. He said, you were very great. You are not going to be great anymore. Yeah, so thinking back right now, it's like I will never be able to, if I have to do it again, I'm probably gonna be like, wow, I don't know if I can do it, because it was just like a lot of hard works in it and that I've never ever had in my life, but it's
Yeah.
worth it. It all worth it.
You are a great example of that of hard work pays off. And like some people think like, oh, when you work in the arts or when you work in film, it's just like either you're talented or you're not talented. And it's like, no, you actually can get better at your craft if you put in the hours, if you actually commit to it. And you did that. You're there at 8 and you would leave, well, you had to make sure you made it to in and out by the end of the night. So that was your cue to leave.
It was like 11:30, so I leave at 11.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, but I love that because it's like I feel like a lot of people skate by on oh, I'm just like I'm talented, so I don't need to put the work in. But no, it's like work first, work ethic first, and I love that you paired with Kayla early on because I know, like at least from anecdotally from her telling me about Hustlers, that the reason that she really worked well with that director Lorene was because Kayla would work on the weekends, would work all after the director would leave. She would work all night and try different variations of things, just because she cared and she wanted to. You just got to put in the hours, and so it's like that was a good match. Although maybe two workaholics together could be very dangerous.
No, no, I think we have a balance as well. She values health and life as
Yeah,
well. And
yeah,
same as Marco and also Douglas Christ, which is the editor I just finished working with. He always like it was only 4 o'clock. He said, go home. I'm like, wait a minute, go home. He said, you finished your work. Why are you here? And he's just I love all these editors I work with so much because they just value you as we're equal, we're colleague, we're making this better together. And I remember whenever I'm sick, sometimes I'm there to say because we're on a schedule, and they will all be like, "Of course, you should see your doctor. You should prioritize your health first. There's no toxic environment here. You have to make sure you're healthy first." So I just feel me myself is just very lucky. My experience in the industry has been very lucky and very very grateful for all these
yeah.
people.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that goes back to you. I think you're a good person and you're going to attract good people in your life. So keep doing what you're doing. I want to ask you though about like Miller and Son, that wins the big award. Does that do anything for the editor for your career? Because you're just starting your career. That's your thesis film. Did it get you attention as an editor?
For some reason, I just start to working with people who saw Miller and Son and they loved the film, and they just call emailing me. And I think a bunch of my short films, like You Go Girl, I think that was they reach out to AFI, and then we linked it together, and then they watched Miller and Son. And I think every time they see it and they said, okay, the story and the cuts resonate with me so much. I love it so much. I love the style. I would love to work together. And the same as the feature film, I worked during the pandemic as well. So yes, it definitely really helped me with my career. I am very, that was the film of my heart. And I'm very proud to be part of the team with all the very, very talented crew.
That's good to hear though, that because
Um,
you usually like when these big awards happen or like the big festivals like Sundance, it's the director that gets all the attention. So it's good to hear that like the editor also, is noticed because your work is so important. But and that also must feel so special to have complete strangers reaching out and A, being like fans of your work and then B, like wanting to work with you.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I now when I haven't seen Miller and Son for I think during the pandemic at all for years, and then I watched it again the other day, actually. I was like, oh my goodness. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do the same
You
again.
were like, I'm good. I'm
No,
real
I was like,
good.
that scene, I wish I was working longer on that, or, and
Ah,
make
yeah, yeah.
sure the sound was more, because it was a very subtle, like the emotion in the movie is very subtle. Like the sound design was very hard because,
Hmm.
like one car passed by from the behind, it can tell some internal struggle. So I felt that's interesting, and I loved it. I was like, I should build more car from their truck.
You're too close to it, but also you are an artist, which means that you'll never be satisfied with your own work, and that's a compliment. Like that's how you should be. Anyone that's too like satisfied or yeah, I nailed it. If they ever do that, I'm like, no, I don't want to work with you. Yeah, you're no good. Yeah,
Thank you, Schwartzy.
it means you're still hungry. So talk about, okay, so now you're getting all, you're getting offers to work on things. Talk about balancing that with having to make money, the realities of after film school and, the being a lead editor, right? And the assistant editor world. And can you, for people that don't know, what is the role of an assistant editor?
Yeah, assistant editor, we have, first assistant, second assistant. So first assistant would majority is the person who is being pointed to from the studio, the producer, the director, the editor come to you. And then you're the communication, you're the core communication person that, to different departments, to visual effects, sound department, music department, color department. So that's where you are. And then, you majority of time you give the task to the second and let them to do part of the job and you work together. I think that's majority of the first. I have so much respect towards first assistant, because I mean, a lot of time you have to think ahead of the time, like you have to, know the timeline and make sure your editor is aware, like this is going to be the mixing day. Is this going to be enough for you? You have to be so experienced and so considerate for that role. I think that's first assistant, and second assistant. I mean, it's just, I think you just do the work that first tells you. And, of course you should always, this is something I learned from Michael. Michael said you always should put your, the hat is like, so she said, if you're assistant, you should put your editor hat on, because you should think for your editor and you should be honest and be honest with your opinion and feedback, right? You can't just flattering the film. You always have to be honest. You should put your editor's hat and think, envision you're the editor on the seat and how would you make the film better? So that's what I really love about Michael's motto, So
How
I
do you
think
how do you do that when you're like working with a legendary editor or someone with tons of credits, like who you just worked with, right? And how do you have the confidence to voice your opinion?
I mean, I'm very lucky because, Doug and the director, Barry Levinson, who's such a great person and extremely talented director, of course. And then he would always bring the entire crew to the editing bay. Not the entire crew, I mean, the entire post-production team, right? The music editor and post supervisor and everyone go to the room, and then he would ask, like, what do you think of the scene? And it's a mobster movie, right? It's so different from my background. And I sometimes oh my God, I dare to say something. But I'm like, okay, why don't I be honest? I feel like this scene is very brutal. And I remember, I can't tell what was going, but I was just telling him, I said, I feel very brutal between the two characters, and I feel very heavy here. And that's how I feel. And I remember Doug and Barry said, this is why we appreciate female perspective, because you have a feeling, right? I feel like women always say, I feel happy, I feel excited, I feel very sad, right? We have
Mhm.
a feeling. And then sometimes I just don't know why. It could be the music make it. It could be the way how they cut. It could be the pacing. It could be different things. And I said, I feel very happy. And they said, and I remember Barry said, that's great. I'm glad you feel that way.
That's what he wanted.
That's what you want. He said, okay, I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm
But
glad.
no, you said what you actually feel.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes maybe I should filter more, but I just felt like, you always start with the positive. It's not like you're flattering anybody. It's just like if truly there's something positive, you feel like the same, you're like, then you should talk about it, and then you should talk about negative, because I feel like we'll have, to me, at least for me, I have a fragile, heart. Like if first time I'm showing my cut, especially my assembly cut to directors, if he just starts to like, this doesn't make sense, why is it? I would like, oh, whoa, right? If he says, oh, I like this and that, and then he started saying that, and works better. So I think I learned from that communication. So I would always start with positive, and I would ask questions if this is their intention, or and then I have to be honest with my feeling. Feeling is a fact, right? Feeling is a fact. I feel happy. That's my feeling. It's a fact.
Mhm.
I think there's nothing wrong with I say that. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
so talk about that, like when you're the lead editor and you're showing your director that first assembly cut, their first time seeing the movie put together. Talk about how sensitive and vulnerable the director can be, and what do you personally do to kind of set them at ease and create a nice space for them to experience this.
I want to give the best shot that the director sees, like, okay, this is keep the integrity of the script. She does her job right, and she really tries her best. And I have a clue on this film now. So let's go from here, rather than, oh my God, like what is that transaction about? Why she choose that music? That's just like, I would feel like I'm not doing my job right. So I would always trying to make sure, like, okay, this is the best assembly in this limited amount of time that I can do. I learned from AFI, from Matt Friedman. He said, always ask good questions instead of arguing with your director, right? What's the intention of these two characters? What's the scene wants to tell to the audience? And you said this scene feels slow. A lot of time, it's not the scene feels slow. It could be other parts of the movie make this scene feel slow. So ask questions. So I would always make a note for myself after I've watched my assembly. I'll be like, this is how I feel, and let's combine the notes together. And this is my feedback or suggestion how to make it better. So when a director start to be like panicking, oh my God, I just feel like, oh, there's no chemistry or something like that, then you would already prepare your feeling, that your suggestions to this, so that I feel like the director will appreciate that. They will be like, oh, okay, why don't we try that? So I think that's very helpful. And sorry, I didn't answer the other question. You said the money and the working as assistant and
Oh
cutting.
well, yeah, I was gonna bring that up again, but like, well, that's kind of like what the assistant editor does. Yeah, I guess the question is like, how do you make sure that you continue to be a lead editor, like because that is its own skill, and you need to get those credits while maintaining those assistant editor, like having an income.
Yes. So a lot of time I really appreciate, like, editors would I work with, like Mako, and Kayla, and um what was the other I love my editors, and they would tell me, like, if you want to cut the scene, feel free, and I will give you assign you to these things, and feel free to cut them. I will give you feedback. And then they will never say, how dare you ruin my cut, or how stupid. They will never say. They will be like, every single, even they never label me as a bad cut. They say even a bad cut, there's a good cut in it. But everyone has unique culture background. We all think differently, and we
Yeah.
all do different things. We all can take something from that thing. So they will always encourage me, like, oh, that's an interesting cut. Tell me why you feel that way, right? I remember Michael said, tell me why you choose this music. Why would you use this music for the character? What is her style? She was born in this period of time, and she lived in this very, luxury, fancy lifestyle. And then what kind of music would she listen to? Although it was just like a background music, but she would think so far ahead of the game already. And that's very inspiring. And that's where I learned. And, yes, for assisting as working as assistant editor is like my union gig that pays the bill. And I enjoy doing that, and stay after time, or sometimes if I have spare time, I would work on some of other, editing jobs. During the weekend or the evening time, working on short films or like indie features. Those don't make money because, you know, the filmmakers don't have that much money, which is completely fine. Because that's, if I really love the script, if I feel there's a connection of the story, then I would work, you know, on a side gigs. So I think I'm not rushing into editing, but you know, I just feel like if it happens in the future, then it will happen for more editing gigs. If not, you know, I would just keep working and enjoying the process rather than pushing for the result.
Yeah. You've been on some big movies now, big budget movies. What do you, when you see like what those lead editors go through, and you saw, you know, someone like Mako going through some stuff, but like then the next editor, and you saw Kayla and how they handle it and the pressures that they have. Well, are you ready for that?
Oh my God, that's a great question. I mean, so far, all the directors are so nice. You know, when we work on Flaming Hot, it was Eva Longoria, and she's just so lovely, and she always having the best vibe, and she's like, you know, like she's like a sunshine. Like I love her. She's always. I don't feel much
There's
pressure.
no like, even like she's like a big, you know, star, like TV and movie star. Like there was no ego there, no attitude, no.
Oh my God, no, not at all. Like when I saw you, I feel like she was my like old friend or something. Of course, I'm very professional in front of her, but she's just like, you know, she would kiss me on the cheek when she first meet me in person, and she's just so real. And when we were doing a preview screening, she was sitting next to me, she was holding me, and she's like, I'm so nervous, you know. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's a human, and she's so sweet, and I love her. And I, but of course, you know, I was not an editor. I'm sure Kayla was having different experience from I am. You
Mhm.
know, of course, more responsibility for the editor. But I feel like a majority of the time, if the team really cares and if they all passionate about this film, then I don't feel, as assistant editor at least, I didn't feel much pressure. But talking about witnessing, you know, like sometimes the director can ask different things or just want to experiment different things, then maybe that's a little bit different. And I truly admire a lot of editors who just like, you know, the editors like, let's try this today, let's try that today. And then it's like, oh my God, like what do you want? Right. It's like can be a little bit tricky. But then
Well, that
that's, yeah,
did
go
that
ahead.
happen with Eva and Kayla? Because it was Eva's first time directing, right?
Yes, yes, it was Eva's first time. She is brilliant. She has so many ideas. It was like, you know, because sometimes you see the notes, it's like, I disagree with that. But when her notes, we saw her notes, it's like, wow, a lot of them make sense. Like
Mhm.
really good notes, you
Well,
know.
speaking of notes, what that's interesting that you bring that up, because talk about the other part of notes, which is like the studio slash producer notes, which are
Oh,
sometimes can be ridiculous.
yeah, it could be interesting sometimes. But then I think one thing I learned is like you should always be humble. Even if it's one person saying this notes is not working, you should be open-minded. You should be like, okay, let's see what we can do to make it better. Just
Mhm.
like, should always be open-minded, and you will never know what's gonna happen next and what can bring up. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, so what would your advice be to like people going out into the editing working world, and specifically the assistant editing role, right? Which is a lot of most people's beginning in the world, right? Because obviously you've done it very well. Because I can speak of three very accomplished, fancy editors in Kayla, Mako, and Doug, who have amazing credits, who would all say great things about you and would hire you in a second. So you're doing something right. In you, I don't even know if you know what you're doing, but what would you be your advice as far as like, you know, how you conduct yourself as an assistant editor?
Very flattered. I'm very lucky. Now I talk about it. Yes, these are all great editors I work with. I think one advice I learned from this is really practical advice I learned when I was working with Debbie Berman. She was the editor for Black Panther and Superman. Um, I mean, she was a very honest person, and I love her so much. And she said, I really, really like your attitude and your work and everything. But if I have to give you one advice is bring a notebook everywhere with you. Even if even if the editor is telling you, can you bring me a mouse, right? Like a keyboard, and then you should write it down.
Yeah.
And that I would appreciate that very much. And number two is she also said, this is not advice, this was first day she told me, she said, if you don't know, don't fake it, just be honest, say I don't know, and then you just learn. She said we'll learn from each other. She said don't pretend you know it and you're wasting everyone's time and passing guideline, that's not cool. And I learned because, and I'm like, isn't that contradicting? Not, she said, I mean, people say, fake it onto you, make it, and you just pretend you know what you're doing. I'm like, no, 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 we can't do this. Just be honest. So I was very bluntly honest with her, and she's so great. She taught me different things, and I learned from her so much. I think those are two very practical advice. Besides that, of course, very cliche to say is be passionate. If you love what you're doing, you know, put your best into it. Even if this is a show that you hate, like even this movie, you're like, oh my God, why am I here? It's a terrible movie. And don't badmouth about it. Just be like, sometimes, like, this is from Brian Scofield, I have to credit this to him. He said, even this is a terrible film, if you can elevate this film to 5 marks more in the test screening or 10 marks more, points more, that means you did the right job. And that means you did a challenging job. When the right movie is coming in, then you put your effort, you put your passion, you put that skill in. That bad movie that, you know, supposed to break you, but attribute you to be stronger and make you more experienced because you changed it, right? Now you would be more experienced. And he said, I'll never say a bad movie is a bad experience because, and I was like, this is so true. And you can learn so much from it because if it's a great performance, great movie, a lot of time, you know, they already did a lot of more than 50% of the job for you. So
Yeah. That is great. That is great advice. And I also love that taking on the challenge of, like, you know, if you're quietly judging a movie that you're working on and it's clearly bad, but you are in the position to help make it better, right? So take on that challenge. You know, you're like that's great advice by Brian. Like, you know, try to make it 5% better or whatever, 5 points better. Because every little part helps, and you are actually in like I said, in the position where you can make it better. If you were, you know, the on set, whatever, you were the cinematographer, you did your job already. You can't make it better now. But that's the beauty of the editor is you have that last shot at making something the best it can be.
yes, yes, absolutely.
What is your favorite thing about editing?
It's just so fun. It's like playing video game. And, you know, if a movie that can resonate with you, and a lot of time, and this is kind of funny to say, it's like I would put myself into that character. It's almost like method acting kind of thing. Like it's like I'm with that person if I'm cutting this film. It's so interesting you said that because during the pandemic, I was cutting this feature called Ba. That's a Mandarin term of father, right? And I'm very proud of it because we were screening at a Cineclass last month, and then we're going to screening at Comic-Con next month. And it's a API, All Asian Group, All Asian Team, and it's a film made during a pandemic. It's talking about a single father and cannot meet his child, and you know the life and the struggle, and that really resonated with me. And I felt like I was that character. And, you know, and I was a daughter in a film because I couldn't see my dad. Because honestly, my dad was in Canada at that time. We were apart for 3 years. And I was like, oh my God, this is a journey that I resonate with so much. And I felt like it was really fun just to put myself into that character and start to think, what if I'm this daughter? How would I react? And what would be my internal? And that would inspire me a lot of ideas in terms of music and editing and sound design. So I think I really love the music and sound and how that put on top of the puzzle I'm making, you know, that's very fulfilling.
Yeah. I just hear you talk about editing and I can feel the love. You don't even need to say why. I just feel it. All right. So then to bring it back to film school, is film school worth it for everyone, or are you a special case because you went at a special time when like a special moment at this specific school when you met a certain person named Matt Chessay? Like, did it all just come at the right time? Or do you recommend to people like, yes, definitely go to film school?
That's a great question. I never thought of it. I can't speak for everyone. I mean, if you're like, oh my God, extremely talented, you know what you're doing, then I would say I don't think you need film school because you already like, if you already won Oscar, and then what's the point for going to film school? I'm just being honest here, right? But if you're thinking that I still, especially I feel like a lot of time people, oh my God, I've met people who are amazing editors. Like they're so fast. They cut vlogs and they cut social media, but it doesn't mean you're a good storyteller. And I feel like at AFI, that's what we learn. And I remember when I was preparing for the portfolio, right? And then I remember, I'm not gonna name dropping, some film school says, okay, you need this kind of camera, you need this production, you need like, I'm like, oh my God, I don't have that $100,000. I didn't have that money. And I remember AFI said, we're all about storytelling. Don't worry about what kind of camera you're using. You can use your iPhone. You can use iPhone to shoot it. Don't worry about it. As long as every single frame, every single scene talks about story. So I feel like no matter how skillful you are, like honestly, we have very, very talented, like very skillful, like avid, you know, user in our class who are extremely like skillful. But are they truly the best storyteller in the world? No, they still have room to grow. Then I would say AFI is a great choice because we're all about storytelling.
Good answer. It's a good answer because it's complimentary to AFI where I work and where you went. That's you are such a great shining example of, I think of what encouragement and the school structure can do. You came in with not a lot of confidence, and now you're like one of our most accomplished alumni, and you are just starting your journey. You're
Oh,
just starting.
girl has two.
And yeah, no pressure, but you're going to do some really big things. So
Thank you, Schwarzy.
can you say anything that's coming out or that you're about to start work on?
Well, small gig is, I'm working on my dad's story right now. So we're gonna shoot like a small short film for him, um, very shortly. And, that's one project. And like I said, Ba, which is the father of, in Mandarin is coming, in some film festivals and especially Comic-Con. And I can't wait to share that with everyone on the big screen, as well as Alto Nights, which we just finished. It's coming in theater next March.
Yeah.
Gonna be a special one because Rob De Niro is playing two roles in that movie. So I can't wait
You
to.
had me at Robert De Niro, and then he's in two roles. There, and Barry Levinson's back. And wait, the other films, it's screening at Comic-Con?
Yeah, I know. Isn't that
That's
great?
crazy.
I know. I just got an email today, literally half an hour before our Zoom session. Like, wow.
Are you gonna go?
Yes, definitely will go. I can't wait. It's been so long. Yeah.
It's gonna be so fun. And I know that you love a good costume, so you can do
Oh,
both. You
I still
can
have my costume. Can't
you
fit
can
anymore.
or do you? Or do you? Selinda, thank you for your time. I know that we're going to have many more conversations, and you're going to come for an HLMS sometime soon. We'll get you the orange cone.
Yay! Finally.
Orange cone.
Got it.
Thanks for spending this time. And you know what? I'm sure I'll just have lunch with you very soon.
Yay, can't wait. Same spot. That was a good one.
It was a good one.